we made quite a few mistakes on those first two deals, to the point where, like, if I go through our track record, I can see, like, this is clearly a 2018 acquisition. This is clearly a 2019 acquisition. And then when you hit 2020, and we'd been doing it for a few years, like, there is a night and day improvement in our process and our analysis and our underwriting.
Mm.
So, that's look, we learned lessons on the small end, but part of our pitch to investors was, we're gonna buy these deals very short term, like 1 to 3 year hold periods, really closer to 1 to 2 years. I want you to date me. I don't want you to marry me, because if you want to do a 10-year investment, you could find somebody who's not 26 years old.
Hey.
You're listening to the Accredited Investors Only podcast, presented by Accredited Life.
All right, Will, welcome to the show. How you feeling today?
I'm just doing phenomenally well. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing very good, very good. So I appreciate you being here. Let's start with an introduction, Will. So who are you? What are you doing? Why are you here? All that kind of stuff.
So my name is Will Matheson. I am a co-founder of Matheson Capital, along with my twin brother, Evan. We are a real estate investment firm based in Charleston, South Carolina, with a focus on the Southeast. We own in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, while also looking in, let's say, Northern Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia.
Nice. What brought you into the multifamily and the real estate space in general?
So my first job out of college was as a broker for Marcus Millichap. It took me, honestly, it took me a bit to find a job. 2014, different time, man.
Yeah, right.
I know, like, but I ended up as a broker at Marcus Millichap. I had family in brokerage, some family that worked for CBRE up in Canada. My brother was working for Marcus Millichap Capital Corporation in New Jersey. So I found a job at Marcus Millichap in their North Carolina office, where I was doing primarily retail sales, net leased, strip centers, things like that, a little bit of student housing. But very quickly, Evan and I decided we didn't just want to be on the brokerage side, we wanted to be on the ownership side. And so spring 2017, we left brokerage. We went to Columbia University for their master's in real estate development program.
Nice.
And this is especially funny in hindsight, given what's all the headlines regarding multifamily. But when we were leaving Columbia, we were kind of saying, do we want to do retail or do we want to do multifamily? Because we have more experience in retail, but, X, Y, and Z. And we settled on doing multifamily because our outlook was, if you're doing retail strip centers and you lose one tenant, that might be all your cash flow. That seems really risky to us.
Sure.
Multifamily seems like it's a much more stable, secure bet, which, it's worked out for us. We've fared incredibly well, but obviously a lot of people, because of floating rate debt, have just been taking it on the chin the last 3 years.
Sure.
So yeah, that's so we went to Columbia. It's a 1-year program, started spring 2017, ended spring 2018. We bought our first deal while we were still in the program, and we've been buying ever since.
Wow. That's awesome. I didn't realize you had that kind of the commercial brokerage background and all. And my dad was a CBRE man, so we got more in common there than I realized. And my uncle and cousin were CBRE retail, kind of retail leasing and that kind of stuff, and some sales. So I didn't realize that.
I don't mean to show you up, but my grandfather was CBRE, my uncle's CBRE, my cousin's CBRE. I think my mom did some work at CBRE. My aunt does work at CBRE. And I could get a job at CBRE here in America. I don't know what's wrong with me.
What did you have? Oh, Jesus, that's you'd think the door would have been wide open. They'd have rolled the red carpet out for you.
I joke a lot of the time that nobody's ever really been willing to hire me if it wasn't commission sales, because what is being a multifamily sponsor but a form of commission sales?
Sure. That's a good way to look at it. What are some of the things that you learned during your time at Marcus Millichap that you have brought with you?
I mean, the number one thing I always say I learned doing that was how to deal with rejection. I mean,
and that's there's no way to learn.
I really think to myself, man, the life of a multifamily broker has got to be so much better than the life of a retail broker, because I mean, when you're doing net lease retail cold calling, you're dealing with a lot of people who 1031'd into some STNL triple net deal.
Mm.
They want to die with that
Sure.
property. They never
Yeah.
want to sell it.
Yeah.
So if you have one good phone call a day, like you are just through the moon ecstatic. Where I have never been rude to a multifamily broker. Everyone wants to go through like a 3 or a 5 or a 7 year cycle. Conversation's got to be
Mm.
so much nicer.
Yeah.
But I would tell people I learned how to deal with rejection. We learned a lot about sales, and we did learn, although not multifamily specific. It was really great to be in an environment where, you're not doing your full-time job and trying to learn real estate analysis and all of this stuff on the side. We were getting paid to learn.
Mm.
So it was really great. And when I say we, because my brother was also at Marcus, and so we were working together there too.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's funny. I've done commercial brokerage as well, so I could share in the rejections and the cold calls, and you got to make a game out of it, right? Right, and it's just, you're just hunting for that yes or the meeting at least to get you out of the office and get you face to face with somebody.
So you might actually get a kick out of this, is because I still try to put some cold calling into my life, whether that's reaching out to prospective new investors or anything like that.
Mm.
I have this glass of marbles that sits on my desk.
Okay.
Um, every time I call somebody, email somebody, just do some sort of cold outreach to someone. That's just one marble goes from that glass into another, and it's just a way to make sure you're always doing the outreach.
You have made a physical game out of it. For me, it was just mental, or on like a spreadsheet, like with the ruler out and the phone number, and okay, you get the pencil and you're checking and all, and you made it physical. You brought it into real life. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think I picked that up from the book Atomic Habits. I
Oh,
think
okay.
he talks in that about someone doing that with paper clips.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that and I thought, the paper clips, it's just not visually appealing enough. I want blue marbles
Yeah.
in a clear glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Glass.
It looks good, marble. It feels good in your hand and all, and that's a great little tip for somebody to pick up here. Um, what fast forward to the to Columbia and the real estate development masters. What was that like? What did you learn there? I always been fascinated with those programs, and I'm thinking of it as like ground up or whatever. But it sounds like you learned things that you quickly were able to put into your investing in multifamily and all.
Yeah, so I mean the program, let me just put it this way, is a great program. A lot of the professors there were actually practicing. I think I've worked with at least two of my professors from that program.
Wow.
And I've worked with probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 classmates from that program. So
Wow.
it's a great opportunity for me. Built a lot of really good relationships. A lot of it is focused on finance, development, underwriting, et cetera, et cetera. But really, it's hard to list all the things we learned. It's just a really great experience because I told you I bought a deal when I was there. I actually
Yeah.
bought one when I was there, sold it 2 months later. Great deal, 400% IRR when you hold it for 2 months. Um,
Sure.
we bought it for like 800,000. We sold it for 985,000 2 months later. Like
Okay.
it's not a huge profit, but the IRR looks it sounds
Looks good.
great.
Yeah.
And we bought another deal, like I don't know, within a week or two of graduating. So I bought a couple deals with my classmates, and I'd say that gave us a lot of confidence to go out and do it ourselves. Also had a professor, I'm not going to name him in case he gets embarrassed, but he was very adamant about like, look, you're young, you don't have the golden handcuffs, you don't
Yeah.
have any of these things. So go out, start your own business. Real estate's a really the diversified's not the right word. It's not concentrated. It's not
Mm.
like stock where a majority of the stock is held by 10% of the players or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a highly diversified industry. So go out, claim a piece for yourself. And that's what Evan and I did. And we've actually worked with that specific professor, I want to say a half dozen times. So really
That's
great.
amazing. That's unbelievable. How did you develop the buy box? Yeah, and because you mentioned you had the background in retail, there were aspects of the multifamily that you liked. How did you develop that buy box and make that decision to hop into what you do?
So the buy box was really influenced by two things. Number one, Southeast multifamily, because I grew up in South Carolina. I went to college in Georgia. My first job was in North Carolina, and I wanted to invest in places that, we knew.
Hmm.
So that was, invest in what you know. And the second part of it was our buy box. It was really easy to pick our buy box because we had no ability to raise money back then. So you were just natural. Like, I don't know about you. When I see people who are like, I'm going to get into this industry and I'm going to go buy a 200 unit property, I'm like, that I love the confidence. I could not do that. Um, I
I'm
am
a
not that
partner or
guy.
something, right?
Yeah, I don't know who
Yeah.
you're friends with, but like we were
Yeah.
starting out buying deals when we were 25, 26, 27 years old. I'm like, no one's going to give us $5 million. So we were really focused on smaller deals because we figured it's a less efficient part of the market
Mm.
and the equity raising is a lot lower, which means we don't need to raise as much money. So
Sure.
that was the buy box. And I mean, our first deals were, I mean, from a unit count perspective, it was 2 units, 6 units, 6 units, 15, 24, 32, 32. Like it was
Mm.
small stuff.
Mm. Gotcha. Okay. So how has that evolved to today? What does the buy box look like right now for what you're looking for?
I mean, typically now we're saying we want to get at least 100 units, something that can support its own payroll. Although, admittedly, my last acquisition was 66 BTR units in Alabama. So, I mean, we just thought that was a great opportunity. But typically, we're looking for 100 plus units, something we can staff, preferably with a value add component.
Gotcha. So what were some of the different, like, what are some of the things you learned there in the small multifamily side? Any challenges or anything, were you doing the property management yourself, or were you typically working with a third party there, or what did that look like?
So back then we learned a lot of lessons back then. There's no way around it. We made quite a few mistakes on those first two deals, to the point where like if I go through our track record, I can see like this is clearly a 2018 acquisition, this is clearly a 2019 acquisition. And then when you hit 2020 and we'd been doing it for a few years, like there is a night and day improvement in our process and our analysis and our underwriting.
Mm.
So, that's look, we learned lessons on the small end, but part of our pitch to investors was we're gonna buy these deals very short term, like 1 to 3 year hold periods, really closer to 1 to 2 years. I want you to date me. I don't want you to marry me.
Mm.
Because if you want to do a 10-year investment, you could find somebody who's not 26 years old.
Mm.
Um,
Hey,
so that was
there's
part of
maybe
our
a better
outlook.
chance you're going to be around that long, and I mean that you got that working for you. So,
Yeah, so that was one of our pitches, but we didn't undermanage, which I mean to a certain extent I kind of regret, not only because look, when you're an asset management fee on a $1 million multifamily property is not worth anything. It might have been nice to just have the revenue, and we would have learned a lot more doing the owner management, but we were always outsourcing third-party property managers. Um, and that is one of the things. It's tough when the staff's not dedicated to your property.
mm,
It's one out of a portfolio, but that was also the inefficiency that we liked.
mm,
We thought there was a lot more room to improve operations in the smaller part, and the market would be less efficient, and you'd be dealing with people who'd owned it for 20 years, and you can
sure.
renovate, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you're working with people that aren't going in, making a business plan happen and then selling it off in 3 to 5 years or something like that. More of a mom and pop type of a style where they want the cash flow and all. They're not looking to sell it and maximize depreciation and get rid of the thing. How so? Do you do your property management in house now, or has that changed? Or
Still no, we've worked with quite a few partners on a repeat basis, but I mean, currently I think we work with
nice.
4 to 5 different property managers. It just depends on the asset and what we think is best going to serve it.
Yeah. what do you look for from like a value add component? Is there anything that you like to see? Anything like, when you're in the due diligence phase or something, is what kind of explain to me what goes through your mind with what you're looking for?
I mean, this might be overly simplistic, but if there's a proven value add component, I love that stuff.
Mhm.
I love being in the position of not trying to, reinvent the wheel. I
Mhm.
mean, if you show me, yeah, 30% of units are renovated, they're getting this uplift, I'm like, oh, okay, great. Like we have a blueprint. I think that provides a lot of security to investors. It's
Mhm.
a lot of downside protection because I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen horror stories of someone buys a property, invests 10K into renovating it, and they can't get any juice on the
Mm.
rents.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's obviously tough, but the more work we can focus on the interiors and less work on the exteriors, that's
Mm.
obviously preferable. Sometimes you've got to roll up your sleeves, do the exterior work, but
Sure.
the more money you're spending directly on the revenue generating improvements, that's always more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Nobody wants to replace the windows.
Yeah, exactly. The sprinkler system or that old carpet in the hallway. I always feel like you see those ancient carpets in those smaller multifamily properties because who the heck wants to display? I think it'd be really expensive, but hey, it could be worth it too. When somebody comes in, they have that appeal, right? When it looks nice and it's clean and that kind of thing as well. So, how do you work with brokers? With and a broader question of just how do you find deals, that kind of thing. But I would think as somebody who was a broker, how do you look at it? How do you look at that side of the business?
I
Is
think
that where
brokers
most of
are
your deals are
great.
coming from, or?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, maybe I've sourced one deal directly from a seller, but I mean, let me be pretty blunt. I love brokers. As a guy who's used to dealing with a lot of rejection, I understand that they're dealing with a lot of rejection. They're calling people. So if a broker brings me a deal, I have a reasonable level of certainty that they have some interest in selling. If I spent all my day moving this marble from one glass to the next,
Mm-hmm.
cold calling owners, that's time that I'm not overseeing our portfolio. It's time I'm not growing our
Sure.
investor base. And it's also, maybe 1% of the people are interested in selling. And
Mm-hmm.
even then, I mean, when you're dealing with 100, 200 unit properties, it's not like the brokers don't know who the owners are. Are you really getting a steal?
Mm. Yeah.
So I love brokers. They make my life easier. They give me someone to talk to and go to lunch with. It's all
Sure.
important stuff. Someone has to laugh at my jokes.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's because the relationship with the brokers, like you said, bringing you deals, it's either that or you're going to be doing it. And like you said, there's time better spent in other places, or you have somebody on the team that's kind of a dedicated, acquisitions person and they're doing a lot of that stuff, that kind of thing. Talk to me about the markets beyond, you said like that you kind of grew up in some of those markets and, you knew those areas. Was there anything else that kind of drove you to one or the other? Because obviously the states have different economies depending on the cities and things like that and where they're at, and then local markets and all. So what were you looking for there?
I mean, I often joke that, the Carolinas, everyone says, oh, the Carolinas, they're so great. Like everybody wants to invest. Like I wish I could tell you, yes, I'm strategically focusing on these markets because I read all of the data. It just so happened that I was from here, and when I wanted to get started, I wanted to invest where I know. They just happen to be some of the hottest markets to invest
Oh,
in.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
You're lucky
what can I
there.
say? The data followed my lead. Um, the data followed my lead. But, you know, generally speaking, we're looking for, you always want to be in the growing cities. I've looked at some assets that were more stagnant in terms of the city they're located in, but at the same time, they'd be called a suburb to a really rapidly growing MSA.
Hmm.
And so, like, that offsets it a little bit, but we want to see growth. We want to see well, I mean, yeah, we want to see growth, and luckily, that's pretty much every major market in the Carolinas.
Yeah, yeah. How about those other, you mentioned like Alabama and some other places? What was it that led you there?
I mean, Savannah. So we own in Savannah, Georgia, and
Mm.
I mean, Savannah it's just a lot of similarities to Charleston. It has an incredible port. There's been a ton of economic development there. It has that body of water called the Atlantic Ocean just to the east, which limits the amount of places you can build. One of my favorite things, I'll be like in a lot of markets, you'll look at it and if, like, let's just use Atlanta as an example. Atlanta is sitting right there in the middle, and you can build in 360 degrees from uptown Atlanta or downtown Atlanta, Buckhead. I can't remember what it is anymore.
Mm.
You can build in 360 degrees from that, radiating it in any direction. If you've got a giant ocean to one side of you, that's limiting development, which limits supply
Sure.
to a certain extent. Um, so yeah, Savannah, it had a lot of similarities to Charleston, population growth, job growth, reshoring, benefits, and it was only 2 hours away from where
Mm.
we're located. It's actually closer than any of my North Carolina properties to Charleston.
Yeah.
As far as Alabama, we invested in Tuscaloosa, home of the University of Alabama, which has been doing reasonably well in sports and growth
Yeah.
for 15 years. And I mean, honestly, the story on that one is we just saw an opportunity to buy brand new construction BTR for $100 a square foot.
Wow.
We just thought that was a basis too good to pass up.
Yeah. Nice. What else is going on in Savannah? I like Savannah. I have people that keep telling me to go down to Savannah, and we've looked at the market and like it. Anything else worth sharing about that market and what you like about it? That's just a personal question.
No, I mean, I would say
There's some things happening with some factories. Is a Honda and like some other places are
I think it's
building
Hyundai.
Hyundai, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, Hyundai has a big battery plant. I own in a lot of places with big battery plants coming in. I own in Randolph County, North Carolina, where the big Toyota battery plant is coming in. I own in
Mm.
Savannah, where the Hyundai battery plant is coming in. Love battery plants.
Mm.
Um, but no, I mean, it all stems from the port in Savannah. I mean, from the micro level, Savannah, the investments that have been made in the port of Savannah are just incredible. It is helping to bring jobs, not only in shipping, but also in manufacturing because of its proximity.
Mhm.
And just as like a minor point, like not nearly as data driven, one of my things on Savannah is that it's the second, I don't want to use the word best, but let's just call it the second most glamorous
Mm.
city in Georgia.
Mhm.
Obviously, Atlanta's the jewel of the state and it has a ton of growth, et cetera, et cetera. But after you go through Atlanta, name the second biggest city in Georgia. You're going to be talking about what? Columbus, Augusta,
Yeah.
Savannah. And Savannah, I think, is the most dynamic of all the other markets. So while Georgia continues to grow and it's a top 10 state by population, obviously Atlanta is going to get a ton of attention, but Savannah is just seeing really good growth as well. And not everybody wants to live in Atlanta. I lived there for 4 years. The traffic's terrible.
I can imagine. It's yeah, it has had unbelievable growth over the last few years and all. So with that comes traffic issues and stuff like that, right?
Atlanta's had traffic issues for decades. I often joke that, even it seems like when they decided to build their road system, somebody took a plate of spaghetti and said, "Oh my goodness, this is absolutely perfect. Why don't we build our roads like this? No grid? Who needs a grid?"
Needs it. That's funny. Um, okay, so let's talk about there's a couple things that I want to continue to talk about. One of them being capital raising you brought up. How have you grown the confidence there? I'm assuming the track record obviously has a lot to do with it. And then how have you been able to forge, investor leads and conversations and all that kind of stuff. Like you said, you're pretty active on LinkedIn and also I'm curious to, what you're doing on that side of the business.
I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I do not think that if there is a shortcoming at our company, it is our capital raising.
Mm.
We're raising more money than ever before, but at the same time, I feel like that. So in a tougher environment to raise capital, and it's been tougher,
Sure.
we're raising more money than ever before, but I think that has a lot to do with our company's growth trajectory and the fact that we sold pretty much our entire portfolio at the end of 21, beginning of 22.
Mm.
And now we've just been redeploying. So that's pretty fortunate. And that has allowed us to have a track record with an average LPIRR of 37.5%. Pretty proud of that one.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I mean, I'm active on LinkedIn, but we have met partners in almost any way that you can imagine. My brother met some big equity investors through a dating app, matched with the daughter, and then he started, the parents started investing with
Wow,
us half a dozen times.
that's amazing.
I met a guy at literally a charity function. His friend introduced us, and he's been investing with us for over 5 years now.
Huh.
I I did a deal last year, contract to close in 36 days, and the equity partner we worked with was somebody that I had cold called. The joint venture, like it was a JV with a private equity firm. I cold called the private equity firm sometime earlier that year, said, "Hey, look, figure we could work together," and we went contract to close on a deal in 36 days.
Wow.
So we have people come in through LinkedIn, we have people come in through referrals, we have people come in through, cold outreach. That's more of a PE firm thing.
Hmm.
We don't really run any paid ads. I think we've done it occasionally when we've like had a deal, because we do 506C, so we can publicly market. Every now and then we'll have a live opportunity and we'll push it out there, maybe do some ads, but we've only ever done that once.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's amazing and inspiring too, and motivational, all those kinds of things, because you never know where it's going to come from. I mean, in a dating app, that's quite the story there. And then the charity events and all, so it's just it kind of like you said, it all kind of works together to get the job done at the end of the day. Speaking of capital, let's talk about the finance side. Obviously, that's been something, that's had a lot of weight, put a lot of pressure in the multifamily market and, done some things with prices and stuff like that. So talk to me about how you've were able to get through that and how it's maybe changed your underwriting and the way that you look at that market.
So we're very fortunate insofar as it's just been our MO since the beginning to use float or fixed rate debt. So even though we sold most of our portfolio at the end of 21, beginning of 22, on those assets, we were using a lot of bank debt and a lot of fixed rate bank debt with no pre or all fixed rate bank debt with no prepayment penalties. Um, really great partner we have, First Carolina Bank. Shout out. Um, so, but that was big. And then even in 2022, as we were acquiring properties, we continued using fixed rate debt. We did a few loan assumption deals in 2023, another one in 2024. I would actually say, as a lead sponsor, and we've done 15 deals as a lead sponsor, we're working on number 16. We've only used floating rate debt once, and that was for that 36-day contract because we obviously had to use a bridge loan to get that price.
Sure.
But yeah, our big thing as far as equity or debt and capital stacks is we've always been a fixed rate borrower. We view debt as your biggest expense. It's not
Mm-hmm.
payroll, it's not taxes, it's not insurance, it's your debt.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can be certain of what that's going to be over the life of the hold period, I'd like to be certain of what that is.
I know what you mean. I mean, coming from SFR space and all, we're usually refining into 30-year fixed, 30-year AM type stuff. So, I appreciate what you're saying there, definitely. What about like supply? And I mean, I think we talked about the markets that you're in being very there's a lot of growth and things like that. And you mentioned some of the things about, kind of the 360 in some areas, whereas others, from a development kind of standpoint, there's other restrictions on supply. Um, I feel like that's sometimes the drawback when you're in those, massive growth type areas. You have investors coming from all over the country that want to invest in those areas. You have developers that are, looking to put new units on the market, that kind of thing. What have you experienced there, and what do you where is that now to maybe where it was a few years ago? And, what's your take on that part of the business?
So the only market where we've been really hit by supply is Charlotte. We've owned quite a few assets. We've owned 4 properties in the Charleston MSA. Charleston has been phenomenal when it comes to absorbing new supply. I thank the Atlantic Ocean for that. Savannah has also done really well as far as supply is concerned. You're seeing a commonality. And then the other markets we own in North Carolina. So we own in Charlotte, we own in Boone, North Carolina, home to App State, Appalachian State University. That has very high topographical barriers to entry just because it's on the side of a mountain.
Mm.
Um, that'll get you. And we own in a place, Asheboro, North Carolina, just kind of a suburb of the Triad, so not as much growth there as you've seen in Raleigh and Charlotte. And we own in Greenville, North Carolina, which home to East Carolina University. Also doesn't have the same supply. So the only market that we own in that's really been hit by supply has been Charlotte. I mean, look, it's not all that's been tough to deal with. But we typically look for areas that are going to have some sort of barrier to entry, be that geographic, be that political. I don't know when this is going to be published, but I'm currently buying a property in Carborough, North Carolina. For all intents and purposes, that's Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The two
Mm.
run into each other. It's locally known as Chapelboro. Very, even though the triangle has a lot of growth, Raleigh, Durham, you're seeing a lot of development. Orange County, Chapel Hill, Carborough, those are very high barrier to entry markets.
Mm.
Just for political reasons, for land use reasons, which I understand is political. So on the macro level, you'll see supply, but on the micro level, we feel like we're very insulated from supply, and we like that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's great. Um, okay, so let's talk about kind of. Well, before I ask that question, let me ask you, what's it like working with your twin? That's gotta be fun. You guys have a lot in common, or you have the same strengths and you play off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. What does that look like?
It's great. It's really great working together. We have literally our office. He would sit on the other side of the room from me. When we get tired, we'll take a break and throw this a football across the room because we've got really high ceilings. So
Nice.
we haven't hit the ceiling once in like 4 years. I'm really proud of
And
that.
so you can almost tell from if somebody's not watching on YouTube and they're listening, it does look like there's very high ceilings. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, look, I don't mean to brag, but I couldn't even jump and touch them.
hey, at this
Not that
point,
I have
if I can't jump and touch any ceiling almost. I tried to do it the other night for something and I embarrassed myself.
Yeah, but yeah, so we sit across the room from each other. We have tried to divide things up pretty well. We have Evan do all of the underwriting for potential acquisitions analysis, just because we want it to be very uniform. We don't want me
Mm.
to start doing something and he's doing something different. We try to keep some uniformity. I deal with most of the legal stuff, but we both do some equity raising, but I probably do a little more outreach on that front. It's been really great. We've now been doing this for, geez, 7 years. Time flies. So,
Yeah.
I feel like we've really got it down.
That's awesome. Hey, I mean, real estate is such a team sport, and you got to have good people on the team. And you were born with the guy, and I mean, that's awesome. You can't beat it. So, talk to me about future state. I mean, you guys 7 years. I mean, you got amazing growth in the company now. The projects are getting bigger, the areas are expanding, all that kind of stuff. Where do you want to be? Another 7 years down the line.
Significantly bigger was my goal. I've said before that, we wanted to have $1 billion of real estate under management by the time we hit 35 years old. I'm 33 right now, so that seems like it might be a bit of a push. But I will also say that, there's a lot of distress in the market.
Mm.
There's a lot of distress in the market. We see a lot of buying opportunity, and we're actively, we're active buyers. So,
Hmm.
um, my general thing is I want to work with more investors. I want to provide returns for more investors. We want to increase our scale to the greatest extent we can without losing, control, because you do see people overexpand. So we want to be very mindful of that as well.
Sure, sure. And with the distress in the market, is it on the financial side mostly, like with the debt that's been put in place over the last couple of years starting to come due and that kind of thing, or what? And if that's the case, how are you taking advantage of that? Any kind of plan or strategy around it, or?
Yeah, my big read on the market is you will see some property level distress. I was looking at a property pretty recently where there's a big lawsuit between the partners, the accounts have been frozen,
Mm.
um, operations had gone downhill because, when you can't spend money, that's going to happen. So we've seen that, but most of the distress we've seen is really related to the capital stack. It's somebody's over-levered.
No.
I think the big story of 2025 so far is that banks are just saying, we're done. Banks, lenders, bridge lenders, whoever you want to pick, they're just saying, we're done. We're not extending anymore.
Yeah.
We've hit 2025, rates haven't come down. Tough luck.
Yeah.
And that's creating a lot of opportunities. I mean, it almost feels like at this point, if you're buying a deal and the seller's not losing money, what are you doing? Um, that's very mean of me to say, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, let me put it this way: that's the story investors want to see.
Yeah.
If the seller's making money right now, investors are like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point, and they said hopefully not on our end, but for those people, yeah, they don't want to see it happening. What about insurance? You know, and insurance, natural disasters, those kinds of unforeseen things. I always love when people ask me those kinds of questions because it's like, you know, I know the answer, but I'd be curious to hear from you. You know, what I mean, how do you look at that, especially in the Carolinas with stuff that's happened recently and all, and
Yeah, I mean, what I can say about insurance is we're pretty fortunate that we sold off most of our portfolio. I feel like where insurance is really biting people is when you bought the deal in 2019, 2020, you underwrote $200 a unit, and now it's $600 a unit, or it's
mm,
$1,000 a unit,
yeah,
whatever the case may be. But in our case, because we sold at the end of 21, beginning of 22, when we've been buying the properties, the increased insurance values have been underwritten into the deals from the front end.
mm,
So it hasn't really been a concern for us.
nice.
In fact, a lot of our rates are going down.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Well, cool. Will, this has been a great conversation. If somebody wants to learn more about what you do, get involved, how can they do that?
Best way to reach me is either through our website, mathcap.com, mathcap.com. I'm sure you'll link it in the show
Mhm.
notes. And LinkedIn, I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn, Will Matheson. Reach out to me there, send me a message, whatever the case may be. Always happy to connect. We try to be pretty active on there. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's the best way to reach out.
Cool. Well, Will, very much appreciate you being here, and looking forward to staying in touch and watching your journey and seeing you get to that billion in assets under management and all. So, thank you so much for coming and talking to me.
Thank you for having us, Peter. I appreciate it.